I know the questions on this video are going to be bloody hard to answer. But imagine this, it's even harder to start your Revit implementation and realize you don't actually know what you're doing and why you're doing this. In this video, we are going to go over 5 questions. 5 questions that I usually ask my BIM implementation clients on the very first day of their Revit implementations. So, grab a sheet of paper and let's be honest with yourself in replying to these questions. Don't worry, there are simple yes or no answers. Let's go. So first question is, do you know which specific problems Revit will solve for your business? Now, why am I asking this question? You may not know it, but Revit is just a tool of a bigger system which is called BIM, Building Information Modeling. And this system, this methodology, has many uses. In fact, they are called the BIM uses. Now, imagine you own a building company and your aim in using Revit is to do the budgeting of your projects like a professional and do them faster than others on your field. Now, that is something to aim for. Or for instance, imagine that you're an architect and you're really tired of going to the building site and encountering problems and more problems, perhaps because you measured a wall twice or because you didn't contemplate something in the budget. That is also another problem that Revit can solve. Or for instance, imagine you were an engineer and you wanted to use Revit in order to get your sheets done faster, sending your views into sheets and having all your systems and your pipes coordinated. That's another pretty good objective, but you can't decide to use Revit without one objective. Second question. This one is about investment. Are you ready to invest time in customizing your templates, families, and workflows? Yes, because investment is not only about putting a lot of money on the table, it's also about your time. And Revit comes to you as a white canvas. In fact, the most time-consuming tasks are those of doing your own templates, of translating everything you had in the CAD system to Revit. Now, if you're an architect, you probably already own thousands of CAD blocks. Or if you're an engineer, how many pipes does your catalog own? Well, you have to translate all that to Revit, and that does take time, so take that into account. Another question. This one involves your team. Is your team willing to learn Revit, or are they likely to resist the challenge? Now, this question is super important to consider before starting with a Revit implementation. Imagine you are a 3-person team in your company and 2 of them resisted. It will be utterly impossible to implement the system. However, if you're a 50-person company and only 2 persons decide to resist, the implementation will be a success. Please ask your team before committing them to such a big responsibility. Okay, we are only in question 3 right now, but I must confess a secret to you. This questionnaire is part of a checklist I actually ask my clients one-on-one when I am implementing Revit in their companies. Of course, I don't give them the checklist. I simply try to check all of this up before actually starting with Revit implementation. On the top part, we have the questions, and on the bottom part, we have 3 categories. Whether this point is critical, which means it should be solved before starting the implementation, whether this question should be thought of or considered before starting, which is to think, which you have the letter T to consider here, and the third part, which is stop. Do not implement. Why? Because it probably won't go well. So if you do want this checklist, I'm sending this to my email list this week, and I'm leaving you right here the link to the newsletter so that you can join this mailing list. Perhaps it's already too late and I have already sent it. Subscribe anyway, because you will be getting more goods from this channel. Fourth question. This question really does get managers angry. Particularly those in bigger companies. But you must always ask this to yourself. Are you prepared to lead by example and use Revit yourself? Because sometimes it's very easy to ask something from your team. But what about you? If your team perceives that you won't even open a model, how do you want to lead by example? Now, I'm not telling you to be an expert or to become one from one day to another, but I'm telling you to try to understand your team and try to open the models and actually take a look around them, be able to navigate the projects and also the sheets so that you may take control of the project and also lead by example. The last but also a very important question. Are your clients and collaborators ready to receive deliverables in BIM format? Now, this is important because imagine that you are an architecture company. What are we going to do with those agents that we subcontract? You know, the one that calculates the structure, or the engineering team that draws the MEP systems. What are we going to do with them? Are we going to strongly suggest to them to change their system? If you live, for instance, in the UK, you probably are used to this system, but in the United States, it's not so common. So consider this before taking the leap. I really hope you have found this video super useful. Remember to subscribe to the newsletter so that you don't lose any more important information. And of course, you can check out other videos right here. See you in the next one. Bye bye.